Well, good evening, friends. Welcome to the Front Porch. Pastor Chris here with you. It's good to be back with you again. It is a hot and very sticky, muggy evening here in Northwest Ohio, and I'm sure where you're at, it's equally hot, of course, because all of the Midwest is experiencing an extreme heat wave this week. So make sure you drink lots of water and stay safe. I hope you've been doing well and enjoying your faith journey wherever it may be taking you today. Uh, over the weekend, a busy weekend, I know for me, and I'm sure you had as well, in which I hope you found some time to take pause and find a sense to really just take a step back in your spiritual journey, to breathe a little bit, to acknowledge God's holy presence in your life. I know for all of us, that is something that we get challenged to do. The busyness of every day, just before you know it, creeps up on us, and boom, we're right in the midst of a lot of things. And so it's important to find that time to just say, you know what, I'm gonna take a breath, and it's just gonna be me and the good Lord today. And I hope maybe you've had that opportunity over the last couple of days, and even last week. We had an amazing Bible school here in our community last week. 68 little kids who really got a chance to hear about the importance of God in their life and how God feeds us every day. He gives us the nourishment, both in a physical sense, but also, more importantly, in the spiritual sense, our deepening relationship with Him on an ongoing basis. And it's something we have to be aware of. It's something we have to know exists, and we have to embrace that. And so I hope that you've had a chance to find that nourishment from God over the last week or so. But tonight I want to take a look at a passage in Hebrews that I think in a lot of ways speaks to this thought about, this journey we're on, and how there are things that get in the way. And if we're not careful, those things can, in a sense, cause us to drift, to float away, to not be intentional about our spiritual lives. And it's an individual thing, but it's also a communal thing. And so we have to be aware of that. And so we'll look at a passage out of the book of Hebrews, in which touches on that, which reminds us, right, of the importance of our faith journey, and how we, each and every one of us, can, without a doubt, really be focused on our relationship with Christ. But either way, I'm just glad that you're here tonight, and I hope you're doing well, staying cool, because it's definitely hot out here, right here on the front porch. Listen to this verse out of the book of Hebrews. It comes from this. Not sure what happened there. But as I was starting to say, listen to this verse out of the book of Hebrews. It says this in the second chapter. It says, therefore, we must pay greater attention. Here the writer says we must increase more frequently our attention to what we have heard. This, of course, speaking of the gospel message. But we must pay greater attention to this so that, you hear that, so that we do not drift away from it. Now, the word drift here, it's an interesting Greek word. It's parahia, if I even remotely pronounce that right. But it means to fly by, or to flow by, to not rush by, but in a sense just slip away. And it's, the writer points to this, and it says, in this life we live, we have to increase our attention. We have to be way more focused in our attention. Why? Because if we don't, then what inevitably will happen is that we will float away from the message of Christ. This message of God is so important to us in our lives that if we overlook what is being said by Jesus and what he spurs us on to do, then his message gets, in a sense, almost watered down. But what will happen for us is we'll just float along. And I think sometimes that floating along is a notion that if I float long enough, I'll reach my destination someday. Yes, it's going to take twice as long. Yes, I'm not going to get there as quick as I want to and as effective. But I'll get there eventually. And some things in life we have to have that viewpoint with. But the reality is, if we become too ingrained in that, then we never truly grow. In fact, we could actually get to our destination and be no different than we were, other than maybe more tired. And I don't know if it's true, but I read once that you could, Northern California, Southern Oregon, you could get into the Pacific Ocean and literally, once you got past all the waves, float to Hawaii. Now, mind you, it would take you several months and you may not make it there because you may drown or worse or whatnot. But it was possible. But it would take many months to float in the ocean to eventually arrive at the Hawaiian Islands out there in the middle. But why would anyone do that? I mean, you think about it. Why in this day and age would anyone want to do that when you can fly, you can take a boat? Either way, it will get you there way quicker. Even if it's a small prop plane, you could probably do that and get there faster than floating. So why would anyone do that? But yet we float, we drift all the time in our faith journeys, don't we? We choose this I won't say attitude, but this notion that I don't need to pour into my faith development. I just have to just stand by it. And we read in this exhortation in this book that there's great danger in doing that. There's great danger in just drifting in your faith journey. Now, there's several ways why. I think some of it is that it means to, in a sense, we become so careless that we don't realize the importance of building on that, so that when the time comes, when we need our faith the most, we don't truly have it. We don't understand it. Because tragedy will strike, and if we're not built up spiritually at that point, well, then what happens? How do we overcome that? And of course, this word drift here, the other implication is being very careless with the gift you have received. God has given you a gift of his son Jesus. He's demonstrated a love that is unwavering, a love that no matter how far you sin, God will still be there for you. And when that happens, most of the time, your faith and the slipping of that faith, more precise, goes unnoticed. You don't realize it's slipping away. You don't realize until one day you wake up and you wonder, geez, I used to be active in a faith community. I used to have, people I was connected to, and I poured into, and they poured into me. I would love to get that back, but I don't know why. I don't know how I lost it. And it's because our attention is not focused on Christ. It's not focused on the gospel message. It is because we do not take seriously this message that he speaks to us. Because, friends, I get it. I'm in a tech, not a cat. We think, I go to church and I listen to the message and I hear what's going on, but I don't need any more than that. I don't need all this extra message, these extra thoughts, because I already have them. And there's some times in our lives where we have to take a break from most everything, but our faith and our relationship more precisely with Jesus and beginning to understand what that is needs to happen on a more regular basis. It goes on in this text. I'll read a few other verses. It says, "For the message declared through angels was valid." In other words, the message of God was true, and that every sin or disobedience received a penalty. And so, therefore, he says in verse 3, how can we escape if we neglect so great a salvation? In other words, how can we get out of this world of sin that we're in if we have chosen to neglect that gift that God gave to us? If we've chosen to part ways, in other words. There's some moments I think that we all kind of get into that space, right? We become so busy at taking aim at our relationship with Christ. It's kind of difficult because we can't see it. It's I wear glasses, as you know, and especially when I drive, and if I don't have them, I can make things out. I can get to my destination safely with no problem. But if I don't have them on, I'm only making it harder on myself. You see, I'm only making it more difficult. And when it comes to your faith, if you don't pour into that development yourself, now don't rely on others, but do it yourself. Well, how can you argue? My faith isn't where it should be, because at the end of the day, it's on you. At the end of the day, it is on you and only you to pour into that. Because if you miss that moment, it may not come back again. And we hear that all the time, right? You miss a kid's ball game, or you miss this or that, they may not come back again, right? So you have to really balance that out. You got to think about that. There's a lot that we encounter and we face in this journey, and I think in a lot of moments there are these avenues, if you will, of opportunity to not drift spiritually. I think look, if you're a busy person, if you're busy with life during the week, then maybe, just maybe, a Sunday morning for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops, whatever it is, maybe, just maybe, that's a way you take a step into reigniting your faith. You may not hear the greatest of messages where you go. I don't know, but it's less about that and about your personal presence with Christ in that moment. The teaching is good, but whether the sermon's great or bad, you could still pull something out of it. You can still pull something for you, because you see, it's God using that message for you. Maybe there's a Sunday school class you could attend that you can have some more fervent information from, right? And maybe that's what it is for you. Maybe that's how you can grow in that development, right? Because you and I both know that as we struggle, as we try to figure out what this life is, that not always is going to work out, is it? And so we have to find ways to pour into that. And I think the first is through worship. I think it can be such a powerful and an important way that we can live into that. The other then becomes prayer, and it becomes study, and it becomes, all sorts of things. But sometimes it's just go worship somewhere. No matter where it is. Doesn't matter if the music's good or just be with Christ in that moment, because you're in a fellowship of believers who are just struggling as much as you, a fellowship of believers who are just as lost as you. Amen. And so we need to circle into that. We need to find that way, and I think that helps us prevent ourselves from drifting spiritually. In fact, I think what begins to happen is you get to hear a more intimate and more powerful conversation with God, because you're opening your heart to that moment. Look, churches hurt people, but it's run by people, not by God. And, if you're trying to avoid this spiritual drift that Jesus talks about, that we read in the book of Hebrews and other places in Scripture, we have to be aware of where we are at. We have to be aware of what we are hearing every day. We have to be aware of the sense of how we live our life. Because it's not, is it? And there's storms coming. There's storms are coming. And I don't mean the storms that are going to roll in later tonight here in Northwest Ohio, but I mean there's storms, real storms coming into your life. And how you journey through them, and how you overcome them, based on the foundation of your spiritual relationship with Christ. And so if it's weak, if it's not strong enough, it'll blow over just like a storm will roll through. But if you spent time with it, you've invested in it, you've worshiped God with it, it'll grow stronger. One day where the storm that's coming doesn't stand. Doesn't stand. So as we look at our journey of faith, I just want to encourage you, wherever you're at, whatever you're going, to realize that God is there, desiring to be in that deeper relationship. And as a result, will through that moment not only hear you, and He'll recharge you. So pour in your relationship with God, would you? I want to offer a prayer tonight for anyone that has to be outside this week, because it's going to be hot everywhere. I know where I'm at, it's going to be upward on Wednesday of 105. I think Cincinnati I saw, or maybe Northern Kentucky, 110, 111, something like that. Just unreal. With the humidity like it is, it's going to be hard to breathe. So if you do have breathing problems, maybe stay inside that day. But in any event, if you have to be outside, drink lots of water, please. But I want to pray for you tonight, wherever you're at. The Lord be with you. Loving Father, I thank you. I thank you for your love. I thank you for the grace that you give to us. I know, Lord, that we all kind of at times struggle. We struggle to hear, and we struggle to see, but we also struggle to make wise decisions in the face of Mother Nature when it doesn't work the way we want it to. So Lord, I just ask for a blessing upon all those that have to be outside in these next several days. I just ask that you protect them. Protect our elderly who in temperatures like this, with high humidity, it's so difficult to breathe. And I just ask that for all of us, each and every one of your children, may we be touched by your Spirit, so that we stay the course that you have already set us on. Lord, I thank you, I praise you. All this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. Amen. Friends, as you go into this week, stay safe, of course, people. But really, let's focus. Not drift. Look at that relationship with Christ. And let's invest in that. Invest in what that looks like. And thanks for joining with me here tonight on the front porch. A hot, humid, and sticky night. But it's good to have you with me. Till tomorrow, God bless and keep you. May you see the face of Christ. Good night.